All right, everyone. Let's get into all the Discord plays. I'm going to try to make this video as quickly as possible. Don't want to waste anyone's time, so let's start with Plug. Okay, so Plug on the 1 hour, LDPM did turn bearish up here, and honestly, I was hoping for a pullback, and I'll show you why. After trigger crosses, before price moves up to the weekly trigger, very, very, very good percentage of the time, there's a pullback to the daily trigger first. I'm fairly confident price will move up to the weekly trigger simply based on the fact that there was bullish weekly divergence. So let me just show you what that looks like. Okay, perfect. Let's move this up a drop more. Okay. All right, and now you guys could see that the most extreme print to the downside was right here. And ever since then, price made one new low right here and velocity did not make a new low. That's our first bullish divergence. We made a new low right here, our second bullish divergence, and we made a new low right here, our third bullish divergence. And throughout this entire time period, velocity did not make a new extreme print. So to me, this is a triple A plus setup, and it tells me that price wants to go to the weekly trigger. And you guys can see even what happened from the third bullish divergence. We're already moving up. We got the bullish trigger cross. So now, this pullback was very expected. I could have sold for profit up here. I didn't want to. I want to catch this whole thing, and I didn't want to take any chances. I think there's a huge move coming, and I want to stay in until it happens. Also, my contracts expire in September. I also took a smaller position for July something, 10.5s, because Zipty Duda saw some flow for that. But for now, the only way I'm stopping out of this play is if price breaks below 880. Otherwise, anything in this area, I want to dip by all the way up here, September 12.5 contracts. And if I get stopped out, I get stopped out. I'm not going to exit a play with 3 bullish weekly divergences because there's a pullback that was expected the entire time. So I remain long. I want to buy more in this range and stop out below 880. Just want to zoom out to the 1 day for a second just to confirm the bullish divergences. So here was the most extreme print. That was here. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I mean, this looks really good. Okay, so, that's Plug for you. I could look at the data for a second just to make sure we're not missing anything important. Okay, let's do VOEX. All right, so, as long as VOEX is in the stability zone, I think we should be all right for more price action, for more positive price action. This itself is a little bearish. The fact that price went above the inhibition zone and now is back in. Here's a recent example. So that in itself is a little bearish, but I'm willing to stick in and see what happens. Nice purchasing support above. So if we get to the 10s, we can gamma squeeze straight up to the weekly trigger. So once we get up here, this second half of the move can be really fast and strong. Let's see what else. We're not on a gamma squeeze. That's good. Snap graphs all look bearish. That's something to keep in mind. Now, again, recently, in the past 10 days, there was a 536% increase in sold puts. In the past 5 days, there was a 372% increase in sold puts. Some bought puts we see were closed out, 69% decrease in bought puts. So, and there's a huge call wall at 10 that we have to keep in mind as well. Huge call wall. So I do think this can get back to at least 10, but again, I didn't size because we didn't have the retest yet. I'm in with I think it's like $1,000 position, nothing crazy. I'm down like 100, 200 bucks. So, as long as price does not break below the daily trigger, I'm going to stay long. Let's go over to BABA now. BABA had a bullish daily trigger, weekly trigger cross, and I'm in some 90 calls for this week based off a bullseye, based off some flow also that we saw. Now again, my stop loss is anywhere below 84.88, and as long as that isn't hit, I'm going to ride it up. Now again, this is a silly play by me because I'm in weekly options. I like having way more time on my options, but whatever. I'll try to cut quickly if things don't look well. If things don't look good, let's just look at the BABA report. Again, VOEX doesn't look too great, the fact that it came back in, but it could bounce really quickly tomorrow. If it bounces tomorrow, we're safe. Otherwise, I may just cut it for a small loss. Snap graphs, 1, 5, 10 look bullish. As long as IV doesn't decrease sharply, looks like, we're not going to be touched by any selling pressure, which is nice. Influence distribution is pointing towards, this area. Let's look at the options. All right, so big increase in bought puts and big increase in sold calls on Fridays. So yeah, and sold puts were closed out. So I don't know about this one, but I'll stop out for a small loss below 84.88. For now, I'm still going to hold and hope that we move up to the weekly trigger. This isn't a great setup. Plug is a much better setup. All right, what else? Oh yeah, AMD. So you guys got Gavin's update on that. And then for Google, this is a great play coming up. If we get this pullback to the daily trigger, which I think we're going to, yeah, I mean, you guys could see the bearish daily divergences. So here is where price made its highest high, and then price moved up 1 time, 2 times, 2 bearish divergences, and is now below the hourly trigger, which gives us a 66% chance the price will return to the daily trigger. If we do get this airplane set up, beautiful, we buy right above the hourly trigger, and because the weekly trigger just crossed the monthly trigger, it now turns Google into a fully bullish stock once we get back above the hourly trigger. And so I'm looking to buy this after we dip down to the daily trigger and airplane. That's Google. Now let's go to Roku. So Roku, I mean, this could really be insane. This could be one of our biggest wins that we've had yet. So you can see daily velocity on its way up. Everything looks healthy here. On this new high, daily velocity made a new high, so very, very healthy. Now again, to confirm the trade, I took a teeny position on Friday. Again, September 100 calls, so I can't really lose too much on it. Took a teeny position because I needed some exposure going into the weekend in case there's some huge gap up or whatever. But once the daily trigger crosses the weekly trigger, and as long as price is above the hourly trigger, this is a fantastic trade. If price breaks below the hourly trigger, anywhere in here is a great dip buy as long as price never crosses back below the weekly trigger. So we're looking for the daily trigger to cross up on Monday or Tuesday, and then our stop loss till September will be under the weekly trigger. Now, because they're so far out of the money, the calls that we bought, because we bought $100 calls, we probably will lose very minimal value in this range. And so I'm looking, if there's a dip, I'm just looking for opportunities to buy more in here, cut under the weekly trigger. Let's go to the Roku report. VOEX is still in the inhibition zone, so that's bullish for now. And price barely even started rising yet. Snapgraphs, 20 days, hella bullish. So that does tell you something, because we are expecting the pullback and then an eruption towards 118. Close dated aren't so bullish, so that could mean that we may have our pullback. As long as price down and IV up doesn't happen, we shouldn't hit the selling pressure. So we want either IV down, move us right into purchasing support, or price up and IV stays the same or goes up, and that's also purchasing support. And IV is pretty low right now, so I don't know if it'll get lower and bring us here, but it is possible. I mean, it was here before. And let's look at the options positioning. So, okay, puts were closed out on Friday. There were some sold calls opened up. Bought calls were closed before the weekend, and here's the 178% increase in sold puts that occurred 10 days ago, right before this rally happened, obviously. Classic. 10 days ago, yeah, again, it's like June 2nd, and then you had this whole rally. I wish we caught it earlier, but what can you do? So that's Roku. Bior, all right, this one also potential monster in the making, and I mean freaking monster, right? All we need is for the daily trigger to cross above the weekly trigger for our final confirmation. For now, I'm long. I was $1,500 in profit here. I did not sell. I don't care, to make that kind of profit in this explosive window. So as long as the hourly trigger is above the weekly trigger, we look good for more upside. Pullback is very normal after trigger crosses. I'm not going to buy any more, but I'm only going to sell if price breaks below 517. Then I'll call it quits. But for me, I mean, the risk to reward here is ridiculous. So I don't mind if I take a loss compared to what I could have made. Let's just make sure that there's bullish monthly divergences so that there's a reason for price to attack the monthly trigger. And I don't even need to look because, I mean, this is super obvious that there's bullish weekly divergences. As price made all these lower lows, velocity is diverging, telling us buyers were in here the entire time accumulating the stock. This is an accumulation pattern. It means this entire time is just accumulation, and once the daily trigger, again, no confirmation yet, but once the daily trigger crosses above the weekly trigger, that tells you price should go to the monthly trigger all the way at 46. And so, as long as price does not fall back below 517, I'm holding on to this trade as long as I possibly can. Let's just check out the data for a second. Okay, so VOEX is in propagation. Oh, wow. Okay, very interesting VOEX graph, but if VOEX comes up into stability, that'll be the confirmation. It got super close, if you guys can see. What did I just break? All right, got super close to moving into stability here, but unfortunately rejected. So if VOEX can get into stability, that will be the confirmation that we really might get this $45 ripper to the upside. Let's see if there's any data on here. Oh, wow, Snapgraph's all super bullish. All right, so we don't have too much options data because, as you guys saw, the options very illiquid and scarce on BOR, but I'm holding on to this one. AMD, I just want to go through this with you guys one more time to explain. Let me just, take away that. All right, so for AMD, monthly velocity is crazy high print in June. Weekly velo, again, guys, this is an insanely bullish stock right now. Truly an incredibly bullish stock. And I want you guys to notice the weekly trigger, monthly trigger cross, which is, the most bullish possible cross that exists. What that did was it took price into a bullish trigger orientation. Trigger orientation trend right here. The monthly's long, the weekly's long, the daily's long. That's the most bullish trigger orientation. Now, yeah, right now, the hourly is flat because the 1 is below the 5, I'm guessing. I mean, it has to be. Let's just double check. Yeah. So the hourly is only flat because the 1 is below the 5, but once the 1 moves above the 5, that's everything is long, and that's when we want to go long a stock for months and months and months. So what we want to see here, essentially, is a pullback at least to the daily trigger. We may miss the entire move, to be honest, but like Gavin had in his video, he had this as kind of being the top, and we want to see like a pullback to the daily trigger. Once we get close, and I mean once we get within $5 of the daily trigger, within 115, if this happens, if we get lucky enough to have this pullback, I'm already buying at 115. And because I'm buying so far out, and because I'm buying like $150 calls, the 115 to 110 will barely hurt me, maybe 10% loss, 15% loss, and I could even hedge downside with like short-term puts, like 1 week out or 2 week out puts if we continue sliding. I'll be looking at LDPM also to see if we can time a good buy in here. But for now, if price bounces off the hourly trigger and keeps going, I'm going to be forced to leave it. But if we can get lucky enough for price to break below the hourly trigger, and we're lucky enough to buy it anywhere close to the daily trigger, this can for sure move crazy. I mean, look at the weekly trigger, monthly trigger cross, and then look at it on NVIDIA. I mean, this could be greater than Tesla, to be honest. Look at this cross, and then you guys could see price made a return to the daily trigger right after the cross, and then exploded $200 higher. So let's hope we can get lucky enough and get the same with NVIDIA. All right, guys, so that's pretty much it for me, I think. Yeah, KRE was a play that I actually, unfortunately, didn't have the balls to hold through. I cut on Friday for zero reason. This is the same setup as Plug. Price should be moving up to the weekly trigger. I kind of just wanted to free up cash because I knew about the AMC trade coming into this week. It's pretty much why I sold, but I should have held. If you're still holding, again, as long as price remains above the daily trigger, price should move up to the weekly trigger. All right, guys, that's all for me.